Hey guys, welcome back to the shop. I got this order for 8 bar stools, except for the customer, he wanted them 36 inches tall instead of the standard 30. And I thought, 6 inches, no big deal, right? Wrong, it is a big deal. That small change of just 6 inches totally ruined my flow and my routine. But we overcame it, and we overcame it by making a new jig and having a new thought process, a new focus. So today I'm going to take you through the entire build, including the new jig, and how we made 6 extra tall 36-inch bar stools. Stick around, I hope you like it. Welcome back, everybody. We got a curveball today. I had a customer who wanted 16 bar stools, which is awesome. Right around Christmas time, he said he wanted 6 bar stools and 2 tall deck chairs. And then I met up with him and he realized he had some more space. So he said, let's do 8 and 8 for a total of 16 bar stools. And instead of the 2 tall deck chairs, let's do 4, which was awesome. I had deck chairs on hand, so I delivered. I had the 6 bar stools that he requested, so I delivered. The thing is, when I get there, the standard bar height is 42 inches, somewhere in there. And he had a bar built that was 48 inches. It's too high. It's way too high. But he said he was going to talk to that guy. I don't know why he didn't ask me to build the bar, but I have an idea why, but that's none of my business. He was going to, the bar was between 2 pilings and then another bar between the next 2 pilings. He said he's going to have one of those lowered to 42, but leave the other one at 48. So here's my caveat is I need to make 8 bar stools that are 6 inches taller than usual. Usually they're 30 inches. Let me show you one. This is not exactly my regular bar stool, but it's 30 inches. And here's a little lesson. For whether it's bar stools at a bar or a dining chair at a dining table or a tall chair at a tall table that you're going to sit at and eat at, you want the seat to be 12 inches lower than the table surface. That's what you want. That's it. Go check in your house. The chairs at your kitchen table, if it's a comfortable fit, compare the top of the table to the top of the chair. It's 12 inches. Sit in the bar stool, 12 inches from here. That's a comfortable place to be eating or having a drink, or you could even put a cigarette out at that level and be comfortable doing it. But 48 inches, or a 48 inch would be 18 inches. That would be, look at that, up here. That would be in this area. If you have a plate of food, here's your plate of food. That's way too high. That 6 inches makes a difference. So anyway, part of my problem, my first problem, let me bring this back. My first problem, it's not a difficult solution, but it's one I had to resolve, is, let me do like this. This span from here to here is 16 inches, same as this, because there's some flow to it. There's some geometry. There's some meaning to everything. So if I'm going to have legs that are 6 inches longer, which I do now, check this out. Kind of like that. It's going to be kind of like that. I still want the bottom of those legs to be at 16. I don't want them to flare out to 18 or whatever they might be doing down there, or 17 or whatever, because that's the purpose that I have. The width of this is the width at the bottom. It gives it structure. So I went and on my CAD program and I redrew some new legs that are taller, and it went from the standard bar stool has an 8-degree miter. Well, the new longer legs now have a 7-degree miter. So now I know. One other thing, where the stretchers are comfortable to where you're sitting. You can sit, you can pick up and readjust yourself. I don't want to keep the stretchers at the same distance from the floor. Then you'll never be able to reach them. You would not be able to reach them. So I need to raise the stretchers up because the seat is going to be raised up. And I had to draw that out too. It made the two end stretchers remain the same because they're between the legs. But the middle stretcher is now going to be a little bit different measurement. So it just threw some curveballs and everything. Nothing we can't get through. One other thing. Here is my jig for a bar stool. I put the legs in here. They sit on top of this, up against here in this corner, and they stop here. And I put put this into place and I fasten it. Actually, I put that down first, and the legs go on top of here. Is what happens because the screws go from the inside, not from the outside. But now the new legs are going to be way too tall for this jig. So, and I'm not going to, I don't think I'm going to make a permanent jig, but I'm going to have to make some kind of temporary structure, jig structure, because they have to be consistent. It's 8 times 4 is 32 legs that need to match at all times. So I'm going to have to, it's going to have to be a new jig. This one isn't amazing, but it's got some work involved. But I can make one a little more crude that does the basic facts. Something that stops the leg in the corner with the 16-inch span, something that I can clamp the leg to in a consistent manner so I can fasten the leg to the seat support, and something to hold the seat support also that's parallel and straight, symmetrical, all that stuff. So the guy says, oh, we'll just make some taller. And I smile and walk away, but it's not that simple. There's a lot more to it than he realizes, but we can get through it. I just wanted to point it out. Just a simple change isn't necessarily a simple change. Just, oh, let's just make it 2 inches taller. It doesn't work that way. It will work, but it doesn't just, you don't just cut legs 2 inches shorter and call it good. Because everything has to jive. Everything has to have a relationship and flow and be comfortable with, there's going to be a customer, there's going to be a guest, there's going to be Airbnb kids and parents and grandparents all sitting on this stuff. And you don't want every single one of those people going, this is kind of weird. So anyway, that's what I'm doing. I got a lot of components made. I started routing. I cut all my legs. I cut all of these seat supports, which are perfect. Look at that. Perfect. Very nice. And then the side stretchers, mid stretchers like that. And I started putting a 3/16 round over on everything. I need to continue that with these and just the bottom edges here. Even if it already has a factory edge, I'm going to ensure that it has the proper consistent round over. I still need to make all the seat slats, and what is it, 15 or so times 8, that's 120. It's not horrible. It could be, I think it's 15 each. And then they all get cut, they all get ripped, they all get routed, they all get 2 holes drilled into them. So it's involved. There's some involvement with everything. Anyway, I'm going to carry on, but I wanted to show you where I'm at. And then I'm going to pick it up again as I get into the assembly, and you can see, and then I'm going to make a jig. And anyway, we'll get to it. as always, after I route all these edges, I separate them from a left side and a right side with the good side facing up. And I know some of these have clear bad sides. You make a determination. Let me see. Like here, here's a good example. This side's ugly and rough. And instead of putting everything through the planer and the joiner, there's an inside and an outside. Inside of the bar stool, outside of the bar stool. This is going to be the outside. And if this is the outside and if that's down, then this has to be on the left. How's this one? It's similar. It's kind of rough up here. It's a little loose, a little wane over here. So that side is on the left. This side, not as critical, but this side's a little better. And if you've seen my videos, you know I always do this. It's a must. On the right side, here's some wane. Let's put it on. Let's call this side, this face, the good face. Same here. This face is the good face. All of these, I've gone through them all, and I have equal numbers of left and right, so that when we assemble everything, we have. And then here's another. When we do assemble, let's try to find two that look good together. They may have even come from the same board. This one did, at least not in the same section of the same board. So we kind of look at those things too as we put it all together. But now I'm starting to put the routed edge on the seat supports, and I just go across the bottom. That's it. This one I already did. That's another point. This one had a little bit of wane. That's going to be to the inside because the outside looks pretty decent. And if there's a factory edge or one edge is better than the other, if this was the bad edge, I did the cutting off of the bad edge, leaving the good edge to be part of the finished chair. It'll be like that. If you reach and grab underneath to move it somewhere, you're grabbing something that feels the way it's supposed to. It doesn't feel like splinters or a waned board. This one had a big knot. The knot is in the cutout. The bottom, it's not beautiful. This is obviously going to be the inside. This will be the outside. But this edge was better than this edge, so I did the cutting on this edge. And that's how we do it. I think I've shared this little tidbit before. I have my two end stretchers and the center stretcher. And a long time ago, I had a little jig and I put a screw in, or maybe two screws. When I used to make these a little wider than they are now. But I like to thin everything down a little. One thing I've started doing is using the domino for this. And I've tried the domino for this and also for attaching these to the legs. That gets a little cumbersome, a little angle driven, a little beyond the reasonable measure of work that should be involved for these bar stools. But I like the domino, and it's a number 8 by 50. I like a domino in here, going here to here, like that. And then so I can make a unit and then put the unit aside and make a bunch of units. And then when I put the legs become a unit. And so 2 leg units and the stretcher unit. And then you put the seat slats on. Bingo, game over. So I got the domino. I got it set up to a depth of 25. And I've got a imperial depth gauge set at 1.5, which is the thickness that I have. I got a stop block just to keep it. I've also got this centering jig, which is wonderful. It sure, you don't have to measure, mark. So I think everything's good to go. Yeah. There's one in the center. So I can repeat that on both sides of all of the center stretchers, mid stretchers, and then we'll do a different configuration for the end stretchers because it's a whole completely different application. Instead of going to the end, we're going to drive one in the center here. So that takes a little different approach. So with the end stretcher, what you need to do, I only get this tape out because it has millimeters. You measure the center. It's a 10-inch block, so we mark 5 inches. And then from the center of the bit to the end of this plate is 10 millimeters. I don't know why they do it in millimeters. But we go from that 5-inch mark, we measured 10 millimeters, which gives us from this direction 5 7/16 or 4 9/16. So then let's call it 5 7/16. That's what I need to mark on all of them. And then I put this, see, the centering dude, I've got a dedicated 2.5 inch because it takes a little time to set this up. This doesn't, I set this up for the 2-inch earlier. So I have an additional one that is flexible depending on my needs. But this one, I use it a lot, so I keep it set it and forget it at 2.5 inches. So it's going to work very nicely right there. Look, it even holds it up in the air. So we're going on this side of the mark. So let me just fire it up. Maybe even right about there. Bottomed out. There we go. So that's going to fit nicely with a little tap. 2 of these with 1 of these in between. That's going to be centered. And this is 2.5, but this is 2 inches, so that when you put them together, there's a bit of an offset here, which looks better than, especially if you have round over edges. If you do that, then you have a little void in here, and you don't want that. But if you have a smaller one meeting a little bit larger one, can you see that? How's that look? That looks presentable as far as I'm concerned. Looks very presentable. So while the glue's drying under the clamps, I'm going to come out here and start cutting my 1x material for the seat slats. And I start by cutting them to 16 inches. I have a trusty stop block on my sliding fast cap stop block with the, it's all kind of dirty, but I have a magnetic measuring tape. I drop, there's a little tiny red line, so it's a very accurate measurement. It's a very sturdy stop. I just slide to the stop. I don't slam it but I touch it like that and I cut and I can repeat and they're all perfect. Here we go. I have all the components cut. I have all the routed edges. And now we need a jig. And I found this scrap. It's a scrap of AC fir. It's not fir. It used to be fir. AC plywood. It's not 16 inches. It's in the neighborhood. It's just a fuzz over 15 inches. But that's okay. First thing I want to do, I want to verify that I got a square edge over here. This is how the jig's going to be in place, and the legs are going to be like this, and it's going to be kind of like that. It might be a little teetery. Anyway, that's his business. He asked for it. The distance across each leg, as I mentioned before, is the same as across the seat, 16 inches. So I need to square this up. This isn't a piano by any means, but we want it to be accurate. There's a nice square edge. Then it's going to be a 36-inch bar stool. That's going to be 36 inches to the top of the seat slat. So the seat slat is 3/4. So we want this to be 35 1/4. So I'm going to measure up from here 35 1/4. So what we're going to need, we need a piece roughly 3.5 inches. Like a 1x, or it could be a 2x, but I don't want to use a 2x. And the miter saw is still set to 16 inches from yesterday. So I don't have to reset it. So right here, we're going to center this piece, kind of like that. That's very much centered. I've got some 2-inch screws. That's very much centered. Now I need a 2-inch rip at the top that's also 16 inches. I'm going to center it also. So now this is going to go here. I needed that to be 14.5, not 16. Let me remove it. 14.5 plus a fuzz. Let's start that step over. We're still going to center it. Okay, so once again, that'll go there. But now I need some little pieces to go back this way. And they only have to be 3 inches or so in length. That's not ideal, but it's going to work. It really is going to work just fine. Now we need an angled one. So now I need something going from here to about here, and that should be, it could be a 2 3/4 of a rip, kind of like 30 inches long. So what we're going to have from here toward that pencil mark, I need to put a better pencil mark from that edge to my pencil mark. Same thing over here. So then this is going to sit on here and then be on the mark here. I might even have something here for support. Since I have 2-inch screws, I found these scraps. That really will be good. Same thing over here. Now, one last thing. We need a piece of 1.5 inches here for the legs to sit on. I've got plenty of scraps laying around. And I put a little 7-degree miter on there. So that is it. So here's what's going to happen. Before you put the seat support in, you look for the better side. And you put the better side down. This one has a stamp on it, and the other side doesn't look so bad. We'll put it down. I can pull it up. Actually, I don't even need to clamp it because it's so tight here. Then we take 2 legs, 2.5-inch screws. I need a few clamps. Which 2, left and a right? Let's do these 2 because they look similar. The good side in this stack was up, so we need to turn these over. And one goes there, and one goes there. And Bob's your uncle. I want to clamp these though, and just kind of go in the middle. My clamps are getting all rusty. Imagine that, right? Clamp in the middle. It's down where you want it to be. The top is going to be correct. This space makes up for the space of the seat support. Just somewhere in there. Pull it down and clamp it to the sidewall, and that's it. Now we pre-drill. So we got to take them off and glue it. And you can see that line coming through. You can even make another line on the top here and know that your glue is going to be in this area. You could even do this, put another line here, and you know that between these lines is where you want to keep your glue. And you just need some. You don't need a crazy amount. And typically we do these before we ever bring the legs in. Got it pre-drilled. A lot of times I even put another clamp here as I drive those in just to make sure it's drawn together. It's a good thing to do. I just put it here, keep it out of the way of the holes. 2.5-inch screws so they don't penetrate out the face. Another battery dying. I haven't used these drills in a month, but that didn't take too long, but it took a little something. Now we set this over on the side and let it dry as we make 15 more of these. 15 more of these is going to give us 8 bar stools that are a little extra tall. So first thing, start fresh. Put a top piece. That side looks bad, so this side, the good side, goes down with the curvature going up. And a little glue, just something like that. A couple of these that look similar. These look similar. Flip them over. And you could easily get away without clamping this. You just got to make sure it stays in its position. I didn't clamp that either, and it worked. Of course, it always works, but sometimes when the screw hits the second piece, it separates the 2 pieces. So you see that in itself doesn't take too long. So now it's 14 more. Shake the dust off. Glue will firm up, and that'll be a nice seat unit, and we'll catch up after I get all these done. So, but It's a quick little jig. It's a little crude. This didn't work out. I measured 7/16 instead of 9/16 because I was, that happens. But it's going to be all right. It's very crude, but it's going to be all right. Okay, here's some of the final pieces to this puzzle. The puzzle of regenerating the process to make some bar stools. Even though I'm only making 8, it helps. I have on my typical plans, I have a description to make a bridge. The bridge is where the stretcher assembly will rest, and these buckets are close enough to being perfect enough for this to work just fine. So what I do, I place the assembly on the bridge. I bring the legs up. Be careful not to put them in that hole on the table. Maybe I'll slide this a little. The thing is, we want to pre-drill some holes in here, and we want to do that accurately so it's the same pattern, it's the same distance, it's the same placement in the leg, that they're vertical, that they're not skewed or like that. So let's roll over here a little bit. You see this leg assembly, one leg assembly, and I have this little jig. Again, I slapped it together. It's a piece of 1/4-inch scrap. It's a piece of 1/2-inch scrap. I cut it to 16 inches. I cut this 1/2-inch scrap to 16 inches. And I know the distance from the floor to the top hole, which is in the neighborhood of 17. So I cut this 1/4-inch plywood 17, and I centered that plywood on this piece. So I need to center this piece on the legs, and then I get my Sharpie, and you may see I have a few dots already. I put a little dot up in the very top corner, and I have another dot on the jig itself that's an 1.5 inches down from that one, which centers them both into the stretcher very nicely. So center this again, I can move it around and I can bring it back, and it very quickly goes exactly where it needs to be. It's a simple, productive little jig. I go to that second dot that's on the jig, and I place a dot on the component. Then we have 2 dots that are straight up and down. They're perfectly centered. And actually, what I typically do, I do that, and this is on the outside face. That's the inside, this is the outside face. Instead of just doing one, marking and drilling, I could do several at a time. On the outside face, throw the jig on, starting from scratch. Boom, 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 boom. It's that simple. And I think I tried it before, bring the drill over here, but you start the drill and you got to move the jig and start the drill and move the jig. I didn't like all that. I thought it was better to just mark them all and then get the jig out of the way and drill away, center it, hole, 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 hole. It's that simple. The way they stack, they start working this way, or if you go higher, if you stack them on top, they start doing this too much. But either way is really fine. If your pieces aren't too large, it doesn't really matter. Get my drill again with the countersink attached to it, and these are just cheapos, but they work really well. And I just put a light countersink, put them straight in. Yep. So now let's go back to the stretcher assembly, which is sitting on the bridge, on the temporary bridge. So now what needs to happen is you want the bridge to be flat against the piece, and you can kind of look at it from the side, and you also want to make sure it's centered this way. And it's a little tricky to do. Let me get some screws ready. That's square, and you kind of have to creep around, and you look, what I do, I look at this point and this point, and I make them equal. And when they're equal, you can even feel them. You can feel at the top. That's actually not a bad way there. Just feel it up there. And then hold it in place. Start a screw. And send it. Try to keep your screws flush, especially these that are going to be visible. The ones up in the legs didn't matter as much, but these are visible, so try to keep them flush. And then we could flip it around without knocking screws over. Hey now, this temporary bridge might be trouble, but hopefully it won't be trouble. So there we go. That is tall, but that's what is needed for the extra tall bar top he has. So from there, we're going to install the seat slats and then we're finished. If it's wobbly, I don't trust the concrete, so don't get me on that. Okay, so can you see? We have a unit without the seat slats yet. So we need to prepare the seat slats. There's 13 seat slats. And what I usually do, I just grab 13 and I start to place them. Usually I put the ugly ones like this one. It's not ugly, but compared to these, it's the oddball. I'll put it to the far side. And what does the far side represent? The far side represents way down here. It's going to be hardly visible. And then the next one is going to be this one and this one, wrapping all the way around to this far side. So if I have ugly ones, they're going to the far side. And is there another ugly one? I don't know. Maybe the green splotch? It's fine. I don't want to comb through here to find ugly ones, even though I could. So I take what's remaining there and I try to make it blend. Is there color variance? Is some of them lighter, some of them darker? This one, they're all really kind of similar. Some of the grain is different. Some of these are a little more yellow than others. A little maybe like that. Maybe that's not so bad. Then you get tight grains and wide grains. Honestly, I think that's fine. Sometimes it's obviously better. This green one kind of could go over here somewhere. And this green one could kind of go over here a little. How's that? That looks fine. I'm going to call it good. So I fill it all with screws. And it's just a quarter turn just to get them to bite. First thing I do, I put 2 to the side and 2 to the side. And I get the bar stool again. I have another little jig. I used to use this for a different purpose, but here's what I use it for. It fits nicely around the outside, and it's got marks in the center. I like to put just a tiny mark in the center on either side of that center seat slat on both sides. Just tiny little marks. Tiny. You don't want someone walking up and go, oh, look at the pencil freak. So I set 2 aside. So the next one is going to go right here, right on top. I don't even have my drill. There's a drill. Lucky me. I put my foot on here to hold it down. I've used my knee to help hold it in position. I get it flush on the end and in line with that top change of plane right here. And then I drive it home, keeping it flush. Don't sink it. I wish this was in a drill, not in a driver, because I don't like the driver for driving screws. Next thing, and we might have to get a clamp. We are going to have to get a clamp because I can't hold that. You can see I get it at the point on the top, but it still needs to move over an eighth. And I could do it with both hands, but then I don't have a hand to drive. But I've got a 2-foot clamp right here. This comes in so handy. It's very convenient. I put it there, or I could put it on the legs underneath. Let me get around to where I could drive it. Lined up on top, I just start clamping slowly until it's flush. And that's nice and flush right there. Very nice. Sometimes it needs to be spread out. So I keep one clamp with the pads or whatever they are in the spreading position. And I put it between the legs and I spread. That sounds inappropriate. So that was, I want to maintain my position. That was over here. Now I do this side, and I could do this from above, on top, get it flush, support the work, send it. This one is, it's off a little, but I could pull it and hold it and drive it at the same time. So I only get the clamps when I really need to. Okay, next one is the next one in line. And what I do this time, I leave an 1/8 of an inch gap and I just eyeball it. I don't measure it. I keep it flush on both sides. I keep both of my hands out here and I use my thumbs to guide it forward and back. And I get about an 1/8 of an inch gap, something like that. And from up above, I can see that it's a parallel gap all the way across. Doesn't have to be measured, doesn't have to be exact, but you want it parallel and you want it consistent. So I do the same thing on this side. I grab that other one from this side of the set. Same kind of gap. That one is perfect. Now I move two away, and I grab that center one. I bring the center one to the center marks I just put, holding the ends, keeping it flush on both ends. And see, the fact that we anchored this side, then anchored this side, everything else is going to be straight. Nothing else is going to need any adjustments or clamps. So it's just a matter of lining up the seat slat. So it's flush on each end. It's in between the marks. It's right on the marks. Send it home. Nice and easy. This one's also in the right position. Very nice. These two are the variants, so these two will go in the middle. I bring them over at the same time. And let me do it like this, and you can see what I'm doing. I place them with some spacing, and I'm looking at this space and this space and this space. It's not overwhelming, but I want those three spaces to be the same and parallel, and they, without much effort, you saw, they just kind of fall into place. And you do this enough times, you get comfortable with what that space should look like. So I'm happy with that right there. Without anything moving, I drive the two. I can go to this side, it still looks good. How about that? Now, bring this one in. Let me do it again like this so you can see. I just kind of not quite a 1/4 inch. It's kind of like 3/16. Then I take a look. It could be a little larger there. That's not bad right there. Everything still looks okay. Okay, and that was in this position. So I take it, I lay it down. I grab these two together. I'm almost forgetting one thing, but here we go. I put this one, I put it tight up against that last one, keeping it flush on the sides. I always forget this. I need to, instead of just putting this up and screwing it there, I need to take the router and route the inside edge. As it sits here, we need to route this edge. And the reason you need to do that is when you grab the stool to move it, you feel that edge. And it's a sharp edge, not sharp to cut you, but sharp that it's uncomfortable. When you grab over here, it's very comfortable. It's nice and rounded. We want to put the same rounded edge under that one side. And I want to get my screws out of the way. There. Put my screws back on. That one rounded edge goes down like that. So let me put it back into position. I should have done that before I even got that far. So now push it up to the previous one, hold it in this direction, flush on the ends, and send it. Then I flip it over in this direction, bring the feet out from under it. This one goes tight up against the last seat slat. This one, it will be here, so it will be this edge that needs to be rounded again. Put the screws back in, put the screws to it. And there you have it, a completed bar stool. It may be a little wobbly. I need to take it to the table saw, which is a flat surface, to confirm everything. It's extra tall. It sure is tall, but this is what he needed. It's going to take some getting up on. But once you're up there, it's going to be a comfortable height for his 48-inch bar, which is going to be right here. That'll be comfortable. And the stretcher assembly is in a comfortable position for your feet to sit on. It just takes an extra effort to get up here. Obviously, we're going to do, we don't have to, but I had one get away from me, the ugly side out. Oh, well, it happens. Sometimes you're thinking too much and is it down? Is it up? It'll be all right. I'm going to, before it's all said and done, I'm going to sand this. I don't go crazy sanding the whole thing. Sometimes if there's like a material stamp, I'll sand those off, but I just kind of sand this. This is what they're touching and sitting on, and I'll sand the surface and make it comfortable. And just kind of this area, typically, even though it's in pretty good shape, but it'll clean up with the sander. So, and then here you go, a 36-inch bar stool when they're typically 30 inches. So sometimes when the customer throws you a curveball, you got to know how to hit it. And it takes some doing. It takes you out of your routine, whether it's this or anything else. There's a normal way of doing many things. And sometimes when you get a curveball, you got to step back and how do I deal with it? Like I was saying, some of my jigs are a little less permanent. I'm not going to throw them away, but I'm not going to protect them really. I'm going to put them somewhere out of my way. Whereas I keep other jigs where they're readily accessible, where I can grab them at any time. I got so many jigs and templates up above, up here, up there. They're all over the place. But the jigs for this thing, they're going to be far away, like where the stray cats like to run. Anyway, thanks for checking this out with me. It's a little bit of a unexpected. I wasn't thinking about making another Barstool video, but this had a reason to do it, and this may pop up for you one day. The big caveat I see, all in all, it's okay to make things different. What's wrong with it? Mostly nothing. The one thing I don't care for is it's hard to get on it. You got to get your weight behind it, because if you don't, you're going to fall over. And so you get your weight back there. I got my thumb caught. Once you're up here, it's okay. But it's going to be impossible not impossible. It's going to be tough for little kids to get up here. It's going to be tough for most adults to get up here. And I think my customer, the homeowner here, I think he's going to open his eyes a little to standard practices, standard chair heights and bar stool heights and counter heights and rail heights. He's not too savvy to all of that yet, but he's been busy building a lot of houses. So God bless him. But some of those details, he knows about how many beds to put in a house without a doubt. But he doesn't know all the little details, and I certainly don't. I'm not saying I do, but I know about the furniture I make. But he'll have his own opinions, and next time he calls me, if he calls me, he'll have a better understanding of what I make and why I make it the way I make it. And anyway, thanks for checking it out. We'll see you on the next one.